Imagine waking up in a world where your job, the one you've relied on for years, suddenly doesn't exist anymore. You are not just a number or a tool in the system. The system itself is changing, evolving beyond the need for human labor. Machines and artificial intelligence have taken over industries once driven by hard-working individuals like you, and the future feels uncertain, even frightening. It's a moment filled with fear, loss, and the anxiety of being left behind in a rapidly shifting economic landscape. But within this uncertainty lies a question that we all need to face. What happens to a society when capitalism no longer depends on workers? The story begins long ago, when capitalism first blossomed in the United States, fueled by the sweat and perseverance of millions of workers. From the factories of the Industrial Revolution to the bustling offices and storefronts of the 20th century, human labor was the engine that drove the economy forward. Each crisis, whether the Great Depression or the recession of 2008, taught us how deeply interconnected our work lives were with the global system. Now, as we confront a new era where automation and algorithms replace tasks once done by people, the very foundation of economic participation is being rewritten. This is not merely about technology. It's about social and economic identity, about who belongs in this new world and who might be left out. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, the system is built to keep you behind? Write in the comments, "I just want fairness." Your story might help someone realize they're not alone. As the 21st century unfolded, technological advances accelerated at a pace never seen before. Robots replaced assembly lines. Artificial intelligence began to analyze data faster than any human could, and entire sectors, from retail to transportation, underwent profound transformations. The result was a growing divide. Capital owners and innovators reaped the benefits, while many workers found themselves displaced or forced into precarious jobs. The United States, a global economic powerhouse, saw these shifts ripple across the world, affecting labor markets and wealth distribution internationally. Crises throughout recent decades, from the financial crash of 2008 to more localized industry collapses, revealed the vulnerabilities of a system heavily reliant on labor but headed toward automation. Yet, this transition did not happen overnight. It is rooted in deeper economic trends and decisions about the role of labor in capitalism itself. Imagine the factories of Detroit, once brimming with assembly line workers, now largely silent as machines take over production. Think of the gig economy, where countless individuals scramble for unstable work without the security or benefits once guaranteed by traditional employment. These examples illustrate the growing tension between economic growth driven by technology and the societal need for meaningful work and income. Around the world, these shifts challenge long-held beliefs about work, value, and identity. In countries that once depended on manufacturing jobs, entire communities face the pain of economic displacement and uncertainty about what comes next. Global supply chains, once a symbol of economic interdependence, are also being reshaped by automation and changing labor demands, creating ripple effects far beyond national borders. But history shows that crises are inflection points, moments where society can choose a different path. Policy decisions, social movements, and economic innovations hold the key to how we navigate this transformation. Universal basic income experiments, calls for shorter work weeks, and reskilling programs are some ideas gaining traction as ways to keep people economically included. Still, many fear that if the system continues to prioritize profit over people, inequality will only deepen, pushing more workers into precarity or poverty. This raises urgent questions about fairness, justice, and the kind of capitalism we want to live under. Imagine a future where technology serves humanity, where prosperity is shared, and where labor, whether human or machine, is balanced by compassion and purpose. This vision challenges us to think beyond economic growth alone, toward a more inclusive and sustainable model for the planet. As we look beyond individual stories and national borders, the global economy reveals a complex web of interconnected systems, especially impacted by the push toward automation and AI. Developing countries that once thrived on manufacturing are witnessing devastating closures of factories, displacing millions who depended on these jobs for their livelihoods. In developed nations like the United States, The narrative shifts from employment to social safety nets. Debates about universal basic income, healthcare, and a fair transition for displaced workers dominate public discourse. The dilemma is profound. Can capitalism adapt to prioritize human well-being in a world where machines can outperform humans in nearly every task? Innovators propose ideas such as more inclusive profit-sharing models, investments in education and reskilling, and new ways of measuring economic success beyond GDP. At the same time, societal fractures deepen. Communities, once united by shared work and identity, face polarization and frustration. In cities like Detroit, Pittsburgh, and even rural areas, there is a rising sense of loss, a collective mourning for disappearing industries and the uncertain future ahead. Yet, amidst this turmoil, seeds of hope are emerging. Grassroots movements advocate for economic justice, technological sovereignty, and community-driven development. Global conferences and continents are beginning to explore visionaries' ideas about a post-work society, one where human creativity, care, and cooperation take center stage. This transition is not just a technological evolution, but a moral challenge. What kind of future do we want to build together? To understand this shift fully, we need to look back at capitalism's roots in the United States. It was a system built on the promise of opportunity, the work ethic, and the belief that through labor, individuals could carve out a better life. The Industrial Revolution ignited unprecedented economic growth, but it also marked the beginning of systemic inequalities. Laborers faced grueling conditions, long hours, and meager pay. Yet their efforts powered the rise of America as a global economic force. Over the decades, labor movements fought for rights, protections, and fair wages, reshaping the social contract between workers, businesses, and governments. These battles defined not just economics, but the very fabric of communities. Now, however, capitalism faces a paradox. The very innovations meant to improve life are making human labor less necessary. Automation and artificial intelligence increase productivity, but displace workers at a scale never seen before. The question becomes, how do we preserve the dignity and prosperity of those whose jobs are replaced by machines? This isn't just an economic issue, it's one of identity and social cohesion. Work is more than income. It is purpose, community, and self-worth. Let's explore the consequences in everyday lives. Imagine a factory town where your parent worked for decades, a job passed down through generations. Suddenly, that factory closes. Not because of competition or demand, but because a robot can do the job cheaper and faster. Families are forced to relocate, retrain, or face unemployment. Mental health issues rise, community ties weaken, and economic despair spreads. This story repeats in towns and cities across America and beyond. The social safety nets we have are often insufficient, leaving many to navigate uncertainty alone. Yet history also offers hope. Similar fears accompanied every major technological advance, from the spinning jenny to the assembly line, but humanity adapted. Today's challenge is broader and faster moving, but not insurmountable. Social innovation, government policy, and collective will can create frameworks that distribute technology's benefits more equitably. Ideas like universal basic income, worker cooperatives, and lifelong education are gaining real traction. They challenge traditional capitalist models to make space for inclusion and sustainability. This transition calls for a new social imagination, one where economic success is measured not merely by profits, but by the well-being of communities and the health of the planet. It demands dialogue across political and ideological divides about what kind of future we want to build and who it is for. If you've ever felt lost trying to understand the world's financial changes, this channel is for you. We're building a space where knowledge brings calm, not fear. Subscribe and let's face this together.